Welcome to Season 2 with the Market Mystics, where we discuss and redefine markets, wealth, and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Join us on the journey while we consider new possibilities with special guests who might just challenge a few perspectives. Get ready to dive in deep with your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Thursday. What's up, Josh?
How's it going? It is Thursday. We are nearing the end of our second week of action. July, the first week was Stillness. This week has been connection with nature. And I got to tell you, and if you're on our Discord, you saw this conversation, but yesterday we had a heat index of almost 115. And I was having a hard time having a desire to go connect with nature. And my wife was like, well, can you just connect by sitting inside and like watching through the window or something? And I was like, yeah, you probably could. So I spent a little bit of time, like maybe 15 minutes outside, around like 6 p.m. And then once it got dark, we went for a walk. And so I spent some more time with nature, and we were just paying attention to different trees and different houses and different sounds. And so that was how my connection went yesterday. But yesterday and today are supposed to be near 100-degree days with the heat index well above that. And it was like, I don't want to go outside and connect with nature when it's can't walk outside without chewing your air because it's so thick.
Chewing your air. That's funny. I feel like I need to make that a hashtag.
What about you? How's your week of connection been?
It's kind of been a mixed bag. I also put a little bit of update on the Discord channel about it. I've had some interesting mix of like peace and chaos, and some like connecting, some listening, some, I don't know. It's been very interesting. And I haven't been real consistent with like the time of day that I've been doing. The very first day I was at home by myself, and I had a Zoom call that I needed to get on. And I decided I would go out onto the deck in the back of our house to do this. And I had my dinner with me. And the night before, we had a cookout with family and had a whole lot of flies and a whole lot of mosquitoes. And so it was Monday night that I was doing this. And I decided I would go out there and I would try to open up a little communication with the insects and ask them to leave my food alone and to not try to harm me, and I won't try to harm them.
Yeah, a little truce.
Yes. Except that I told you this the other day, Josh. It was like chaos. It's like complete chaos trying to like even connect with them. I don't know. And maybe it's because of the type of insect they are or whatever. It was chaotic. I'm just like, hey, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. I'll leave you. Leave me alone. Like that's kind of how it felt. That it was like this whole thing. And I wound up not having any mosquito bites, and my food was left alone until I was finished, and then I put the plate to the side, and then whatever, the flies can go whatever they do to it. But it was kind of chaos trying to communicate that, but I was trying nonetheless.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of this, is just a practice, like try weird things. Like,
It was definitely weird. If anybody would want to be a fly on the wall, they would have seen me acting really funny. But that was Tuesday or Monday. Tuesday. I'm trying to keep track of the days this week. We've had a lot going on, you guys. Like this has been a full week. Tuesday, I was helping Illy, my daughter, she saw a spider and was very freaked out. She gets really freaked out by certain bugs, but not others. You know how it is. And yes, I do know a spider's not a bug. Still, in my mind, it's categorized the same way.
Sure.
And she was like, oh my gosh, we have to kill it. And I was like, why don't you just go ask it to go back where it came from and to not bother you, and you won't bother it. And she did. And number one, it was the cutest thing ever. And number two, it totally ran back into its little hole that it came from and didn't come back out. So that was interesting. So we've been talking about this stuff. It's not just me. Like you said, you and Bray have been doing it, or at least some of it. I don't know if it's all of it together. And Illy's like my little partner with this. And that night she wanted to have a picnic. So we made our food and we took a little blanket out in the front yard and put it in the grass. And again, we asked the insects to not bother our food or us while we're trying to eat. And it was fine. But then it was great. It was like one of those moments that sometimes you remember for a long time. We put our feet in the grass and we laid back on the blanket and we looked at the clouds and we listened for all the sounds and like tried to pick out all the things, kind of like we did before I've talked about. But it was her leading this, and I kind of really loved that too.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so we had a good 45 minutes or so outside doing that. I had an interesting thing happen. When I put my feet in the grass, I had one leg that was like buzzing. It was like tingling, buzzing. And it wasn't like I had anything on it. Like there weren't any like bugs or anything, but there was some sort of energy flowing in it. It was an interesting thing. One more thing that I'm going to mention, and then I'll stop talking. I feel like I've been talking for a long time. I have a long recap, you guys. That night, I was especially like, after we were listening to all the things, I then really kind of tuned into one particular tree in our front yard. I feel like we need a disclaimer for this whole episode. Like, let's get weird, right? And it had some grievances. And it was like not thrilled with how things have been or how interaction with humans has been, and like not seen as valuable. And I was just really like kind of pouring from my heart, like appreciation and love that way, and kind of an overarching apology for not recognizing it or trees in general as something that's valuable. Anyway, but then it really started like showing how it has, like, if you listen, and even just in the leaves rustling, it gives like forewarnings to things that are coming before mostly anything else in creation. It was very interesting. So when I was outside this morning and yesterday morning, that's how I avoid the heat, Josh. I go out early in the morning and I sit out there. So when I was there in the mornings, like I would then tune into it again. And like there was kind of a, hey, something's coming, especially this morning. There's something that's coming. And then I started really thinking about the partnership between the trees and the wind and how they communicate together, but also with one another. Made me think about this book that I read recently that you're probably not to this point yet, Josh. It's The Alchemist. But there's a whole part about the wind that's really interesting, and it made me think about that. And then that's the end of my story. So I'm sorry I talked so long.
No, I think that's great. It's not from that book, but there's a book that I really enjoy called Many Waters by Madeline L'Engle.
I'm not to that
And they
point
talk
either.
they talk about going out and listening to the wind, or going out and sitting under the stars and listening to the stars, and the stars like singing to you. And yeah, so I just think like there's, and yes, I understand both these books we're referencing are fiction books, but I still think that there is throughout throughout societies for hundreds, thousands of years, maybe forever, there has been something about like nature and nature giving you warning signs or giving you messages or things like that. Like just paying attention to nature, I think, has been a theme of just life.
It's so
And
true.
often we get real caught up in our lives and sitting in offices. And I was just talking to Bree yesterday about sunscreen, and I'm not a doctor, so don't listen to my opinion about sunscreen. Consult your local physician or your personal physician. But I was talking to her about sunscreen, and I was like, it was created for a purpose because people were getting skin cancer. But sometimes there have been other side effects that have been caused because of that. So it solves one problem, but it doesn't solve the other problem. And really, the whole reason we use it, anyways, is because we're not listening to our bodies when we're in the sun. So we wouldn't need sunscreen if we could slowly build up our skin's tolerance to the sun and then just manage our time in the sun after that. But I know, like me personally, I spend a lot of time inside, spend a lot of time at a computer, not a lot of time in the sun. And then I go on vacation to a beach or somewhere sunny, has a pool or something, and my body's not prepared for being in the sun. And so I need sunscreen to like not hurt myself. And so it's just, it's a, but the thought, like the reason I'm bringing that up is it, it's because we're not listening. I would argue part of it is because we're not listening to our bodies and to creation, or
Mhm.
building that connection to creation to where it's not harmful for long exposure. um, that's just yeah, I think there's like a balance made in nature, and when we abuse the balance, we it's not a punishment, it's just cause and effect. Like if you're not ever outside in the sun and you go spend a whole day in the sun, your skin's going to burn. Like, it's
Yeah,
not a punishment, it's just simply cause and effect for not understanding the way things were created to work.
I'd agree. And I think some of the being tuned into nature or creation is a vast underutilization of resources that are there to help us and that we
Yeah.
can partner with. And we just tend to ignore them
Yeah.
or think that we have better ways. And we do have some other solutions. But I also think some of those other solutions have gotten us so disconnected from, again, origins,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how we were created to function and in partnership with creation. That I don't know if I should say this. I think I'm going to say it. I think there's a chasm that's been created between creation and humans because we think we know better and we're so much better and we have abused then creation and what it provides. Um, I'm going to get real, I don't want to get like that, but I think even with food sources and overproduction of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even just overuse of soil. We all know, or maybe it's just because we're from like farm country.
Sure.
We were taught in school about crop rotation, but it's so that you don't deplete the nutrients in the soil and you
Mm-hmm.
allow for that to be restored. Some of that doesn't happen anymore. And I just think there's some, uh, it's a little abusive of what things have and can provide to us.
Well, and just that one particular topic makes me think like, um, even in the Bible, they had like they applied the Sabbath even to everything they did. So every 7 years, their fields would get a rest for a whole year. And I believe that on a natural level, what that was doing was allowing the regeneration of the natural minerals and things that are in the soil.
Right. Even that concept. I mean, I think it's an interesting thing that even if we get real spiritual and we go by what scripture says and we observe the Sabbath and we give ourselves the seventh day to rest, but then we decide that we won't give that to anything else, and we make that decision on their behalf, is that actually being a good steward? And is that actually walking as sons of God, as manifest sons of God? And will creation recognize us as that, or as slave drivers, or as abusers, or as things to not be trusted? You know, I have to wonder about that. Not that I'm great at practicing it all the time, but right now I'm thinking about it, and I think, maybe this is why, like, that tree was distrusting and had like grievances, like had to file grievances before we could have a conversation, or not conversation, like communication, I suppose.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I love your concept of just like we've created a chasm, or created a chasm between where we are and where nature is, instead of just looking at it as really a divine partnership that God put here for our benefit, for mutual benefit, for our benefit and nature's benefit. And it's not a, it's not a like worshiping nature. But it's also not an abusing of nature. It's a partnership with it. And so I love that this week has been just an opportunity to reconnect with some of that, either in ethereal ways or maybe even in practical ways. And so I just would really encourage the listeners to just like spend a moment with nature. We have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before we start the next week of things. Like, just take a moment and connect with nature and appreciate the balance and the purpose in it.
Agreed. I think that's really good. I also want to just put out there that it doesn't have to be done in one way or another. You don't have to go talk to the trees. You don't have to do grounding. You don't have to smell the roses. I don't know. It doesn't have to be like one size fits all. But I mean, it could be as simple as, I don't know, connecting with your pet, or recognizing beauty somewhere that you otherwise overlook on your drive to work or something. You know what I mean? A few years ago, I got so obsessed with wildflowers. I live in the city, but along the highways, I would see all these wildflowers growing everywhere, and I would be like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's just, I think it is, like we've talked about this so many times, awareness is the first step. And your wildflower story, it's simply you being aware of the beauty in creation that you normally otherwise just drove right by.
Right. And then I saw them everywhere.
Yeah.
Even like in the cracks between sidewalks, like places you don't think you would see it in an urban setting. All of a sudden, there it is. And then the beauty of that, to be able to like, it's not even in the wild right now, but they're like, I'm still wild and I'm still going to grow. I've been planted and I will grow.
That's good.
That is good. Okay. Well,
awesome.
We'll see you again on Monday. I hope some creation connection happens this weekend. And if so, you should share it, because we love to hear about these things. Or if you have some other perspective. You know what I value a lot is other perspectives.
Yeah, that's amazing. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to connect with you on Discord or on the YouTube comments. Either way, let us know.
For sure. Okay, see you on Monday.
Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Visit upperroomcd.com, where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.